I'm AB Tilly Hazell. I'm an able rated in the Royal Navy and I'm currently studying at BCU as a student Royal Naval Nurse. For me, I always wanted to kind of do something to do with like medical and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I was in year 12 and I was at a careers fair and I was looking at paramedic science, I was looking at nursing, and there was a Royal Navy stand. And my dad said to me, kind of like, why don't you go have a look? And that's when I found out that they actually do nursing in the Royal Navy. And to me, it kind of like, that was just a no-brainer, that the two together, because I always had the military in the back of my head, and nursing was always kind of one of the options. So when I knew that I could do both, it was kind of just, I never looked back. And I think as well, particularly in the Navy, being a military nurse, you're able to help those that are kind of serving and fighting and helping your country. So it's kind of that just a bit more special compared to other nursing. No, so I've never had any kind of experience with the military, no family in the military. The closest I had was when I was younger, I was a police cadet. So I've had that kind of discipline with marching and stuff like that, but stuff with like the Navy, kind of like with the ships, sailing, all that kind of stuff, it was all like brand new to me. So I had to learn a lot, yeah. So what's different is you don't go straight to your university degree. When you join the Navy, you join as like any other rating. So I went through I started my application in October 2020 and I started my phase 1 training in May 2022. So it took kind of like nearly 2 years to actually get into like joining the Navy. And there was stuff like, as much as there's physical stuff where you had to do pre-joining fitness tests, stuff like that, we had to compete on a selection board where we had to present an interview and like a presentation to the interview panel. And that was really kind of, especially because of COVID, it was all done over online. And that was kind of the first step into like that nursing. But then you go to what they call HMS Raleigh down in Torpoint, and that's where you do your phase 1 with every single other branch. So when I did my phase 1 training in May, there was weapons engineers, there were chefs, there were medical assistants, submariners, and there was all like put together. And that's where you learn your stuff for like seamanship specialists. So we did like a week out on the boats where we drive the boats. We did a week out at MTU, which is the military training unit, and we become competent with the air rifle. And then after that, we go on to our phase 2, which is at the university. So our phase 2 training is what's known as DHE Birmingham, so Defence Healthcare Education Birmingham. And we're basically put alongside the civilians on a normal university degree. So I'm studying adult nursing in my first year. But what's really special about the degree is that as much as we get to meet loads of different civilians, we're put with RAF and Army colleagues. So we're not just training with people from the Royal Navy, and we get that kind of tri-service experience. And we're able to keep up with our military duties as well as doing our degree. So when I first got here, we had an induction week at where we live in Hampstead, and we have our own student accommodation where we all share flats with each other, and we kind of get to know each other. And then the first week we do group PT, which is like gym classes with our PTI, and we just did like team building exercises, shared stories with different people, and we get that extra support where we have a course manager every year. So like if we need any pastoral support, we've got an academic registrar which deals with like the kind of assignment if we have struggles with that kind of stuff. And then we just go straight into the university degree. So when we have our lectures, we're with all our civilian colleagues, and we just start the degree as that. But we also have military duty to upkeep. So we've got 2 PT sessions a week that we have to do, and a third one that we have to log on a PT diary. And we get opportunities to have days out. So last week I went to the Florence Nightingale commemoration service at St Paul's Cathedral, and that was just something that you wouldn't normally get to do if you're just doing nursing as a civilian, so yeah. And my first placement was at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, which is one of the joint hospital groups in Birmingham. So although I was on a civilian ward, I got to work with a lot of military staff when, so every week they had an MDT meeting, so multidisciplinary team. And I got to speak to military physios, military neurosurgeons, plastic surgeons, and that was really interesting from like a military side of things, because I got to see what I'd be doing if I were posted to Birmingham. But then I was also learning to work with civilian patients, as I would be doing as well. So that was really interesting. It was very hard at times because with the going from a 9 to 5 kind of thing at university to then switching back to 12-hour shifts, 3 hours, not 3 hours a week, 3 times a week, it is really like mentally and physically draining. But I think the best part about it is like you can come away and just say that you've actually made a difference, and it's actually really a rewarding job, even though we're not qualified yet. You get the sense and like you get the taste of what it's going to be like when you qualify. All of my mentors on my first placement block on the ward were all civilian. My mentor was a sister, so she was band 7, I think, and I basically followed her around with med rounds and all the different procedures, so like things like inserting a catheter and stuff like that, and I learned all of what I learn now. All of the stuff that I learned in university I kind of put into practice, and it was really nice to have a good mentor, and I was really lucky to have someone that was able to show me the ropes. A lot of our staff here are like military nurses, so it's really nice to get their kind of experience from it. It is really insightful because you get to kind of see the opportunities of what you could do, so like you don't always have to be clinical. It's nice to hear their stories because it kind of reassures you of like that you will get there and you can do all these things that they're saying they're doing, and just having the support from like if you were to ask them any questions, you'd be able to get like a really good answer, and they are happy to share what they've done with you. I'm definitely looking forward to my first ship. I think where I went had my phase 1 training with other branches, I'm now kind of where their training isn't as long as like the 3-year degree. They're going off on ship and doing all this stuff, and it kind of just makes me get excited for when we eventually do. And I think also we had a talk from our head of, so in the nursing they call it the Queen Alexandra's Royal Naval Nursing Service, which is a bit of a mouthful, but he's saying about all like the different changes. So by the time we qualify, there's going to be like so many different opportunities for us. So I think it's really exciting to just kind of see what the future holds, and that we're not just generally going to be put on a ship, and that there's other opportunities that we can be deployed to as a military nurse. Yeah, when I was on phase 1 training, we went on to the HMS Brecon that was anchored to the river, and I was saying to everyone like it's moving, and they were like no it's not. I was like I can feel it moving. So a bit of seasickness was on that, but I just have to deal with it. One of the other biggest challenges I had was probably going into my first placement, because I've never had that kind of clinical exposure, and I worked in a care home but I was an activities coordinator, so I never actually got down to doing anything clinical in terms of learning about medications, learning about personal care, like bedside manner and stuff like that. So that was like a big challenge for me, and especially going in as kind of the only military nurse and kind of being scared to what people would think or something like that. But after literally a few hours, I was put at ease, and it was I shouldn't have thought anything like that, because it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. But when I passed out of rally from my phase 1 training, it was like kind of that first step into the nursing kind of my journey, and it was like the first tick in the box, and like from seeing my family for the first time in over like 2.5 months, and just them being proud of me, I'd be proud of myself, and knowing that I was like one step closer to qualifying, I think that was probably one of my proudest moments of my career so far. Yeah. The best thing about being a naval nurse would probably be just literally putting smiles on people's faces. Like working in a hospital can be like really hard mentally, physically, but being able to come away and just know that you've made that little difference, I think is like the most rewarding, and it's probably like I think we've got the best job in the world. I think the worst thing is, and it's not even that bad, it's just, for me, I experienced kind of a patient passing away, which is obviously comes with the job and stuff. But it does, I think it then enhances kind of why you're doing this, and like knowing that you've kind of looked after them in their final hours, and you've been able to make them kind of die in peace. So Florence Nightingale and Mary Seacole, I was researching, and I think for me, their legacies kind of continue on, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now. And I think I just feel lucky to be able to carry on and be a part of that legacy. And although it was like hundreds of years ago, I think it's really special that people are still recognising nurses, both civilian and military, for what they do, and that like stuff like last week with the commemoration service for Florence Nightingale. I think it's really nice that their legacies are carried on and we get to kind of carry that on for them.